Okay. Hi, Johna. Thank you for coming. I'm going to introduce myself real quick and then we will get into the interview. I am Allie Brown. I am the owner of Agent List. I am here doing interviews with agents. I remain a unbiased, neutral third party, and I want to make sure that when we send clients or agents to another agent, I want to make sure it's the best agent possible. So I wanted to do these interviews to be able to get to know the agents and to let you get to know the agents as well. So this is Johna. She is my chosen agent for Fort Leonardwood, Missouri. And so hello. So if you
Hello,
want to
Al.
just
Thank you.
tell me more about like where you're located.
Okay. Technically, we're in St. Robert, Missouri, but that's usually not someone's, home search. So
Mhm.
we are right out the front gate of Fort Leonardwood, but you'll find my office in St. Robert. You'll probably do more of a housing search in St. Robert and Waynesville.
Okay. Sounds good. So in the past, have you worked with quite a few service members?
Yes, that's primarily, it's 95% of our business.
Oh, wow.
Um, VA buyers, primarily military. Most of our staff and agents are all military affiliated, either military spouses or retired military. I've got one or two that aren't, but otherwise, everybody you meet on our team will have a military affiliation.
Yeah. So I earlier before we started recording, you were talking about your husband being in the military service. Do you think that
Yeah.
that has helped you understand what people are going through with the PCS and moving process?
Yes, actually, that's how I got started in real estate. We
Yeah.
moved PCS 13 times
Okay.
in 20 years. So I got pretty good at moving. And I found myself calling my friends and saying, hey, we're going to Fort Drum or we're going to Leonardwood. What do I do? I need a hairdresser. I need a preschool for my kids.
Sure.
What school district do I want to be in, etc.
Yeah.
And they found that people were doing the same with me. They were calling me and saying, hey, John, we're headed to Leonardwood. Can you tell me these things? And that's really how it all started. And my dad said, you should get your real estate license. You're
Yeah.
doing half the job as it is. And honestly, we spend most of our time welcoming people to our community and familiarizing them
Mhm.
with our community, our neighborhoods. We don't have a lot of neighborhoods. It's kind of a rural area,
Mhm.
so all the more reason why you need somebody that's been here for a while.
Sure. That's awesome. Um, how long have you been in business?
I've been at Fort Leonardwood for since 2002.
Okay.
So 2 years, but I got my license in 2005. So almost 20 years at my current brokerage in real estate and at my current brokerage.
Yeah. Wow. That's a long time.
It's a lot.
How, yeah. How many listings would you say that you do a year?
We do between 75 and 100
Okay.
listings a year. We have a smaller team, but we have uh, really good agents. Our we have four agents and they are in the top five in
Hmm.
our market every year.
Wow.
um, because we do list a lot. We list a
Hmm.
lot of the local inventory and we sell a lot. We do a high volume.
Yeah. Is that number the 100? Is that buyers and sellers or just sellers?
Sellers, just
Okay.
sellers. Yeah.
Do you guys try and work with any buyers as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we love buyers. Um, but I would say 60% of our business is sellers and
Hmm.
40% buyers. And
Okay.
that fluctuates year to year.
Yeah. Do you think that the numbers matter?
Which numbers? Sales numbers? Numbers of, is that what you mean?
Yeah,
How
just
many?
like, do you think it matters like how many listings you do a year? Does that show if you are a good real estate agent? Does that show if you have experience or if you know what you're doing? Or can somebody who has a lot lower numbers than you still do as well? Do you think that the numbers matter?
Well, I think the time in the
Hmm.
seat matters significantly, especially now. You have to fight for, to get those houses, to get those purchases and to get your contract accepted. You have to have that experience. I do think that the number of homes that you list is a good indicator. of how successful you're going to be at selling someone else's house.
Sure.
And um, but I would say experience. But one thing I do want to add to that is because we do list so much, we have a lot of people in what we call a hold status,
Mm,
which means I may know months in advance that these people are coming into inventory through the
sure.
busy. And if you're a buyer, you need to know that, especially
Mhm.
now whenever you're competing for contracts and getting these contracts accepted and getting the property that you love, that you've fallen in love with.
Right.
So my vantage point, if I were a buyer, that's what I would want. Who's got the inventory?
Yep.
I can tell you about properties that aren't even on the MLS yet. I can't let you see them, but I can tell you about them. And we do pride ourselves in having it's technically called withheld
Mm,
inventory. And that's for our buyers and it services our sellers. It's a win-win.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I agree that I think that numbers do matter and they do indicate, the history and the experience that you've been able to build over time. So
And,
I've had,
and if I
go
can
ahead.
add, our Google reviews are a number that I think is a strong indicator. You can see what people have said about us. You can see if that review is a year old or 3 years old, or, if it was a review that I got last week.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people, check out our Google reviews. We have over 600, depending on what community you search in. If you
Hmm.
in St. Robert, you get one number. If you search in Waynesville, you get another. But it's well over 600 5-star reviews.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's
Yeah.
actually one of the reason I wanted to do these interviews was because I felt like when I was trying to find the best agents in each one of these army locations, I was looking at reviews. But then I was like, I'm only getting one side, which isn't bad. I'm not saying the buyers are wrong who all said 5-star reviews, but that's why I was like, I want to get your side as well, which, you tell me your perspective and who you are. And that way it's like they get to line up together. So I'm not just like one-sided, only getting the buyer or seller's review who, maybe they were, raving about it and that's awesome, but I get to know you as well. And so that's kind of why I wanted to do these interviews.
No, I think it's a great idea. I wish everybody could see this and interview agents. Sometimes I think they kind of jump on, a platform and register their name, and the next thing they know, they're tied up with an agent that
Mhm.
they don't have this opportunity to even necessarily get to know. So this is
Right.
a great idea.
Thank you. All right. So how would you say that you like to communicate with your clients and how often do you communicate?
Well, I prefer to speak to someone over the phone, but secondary, I like texting.
Mhm.
Um, I personally like texting. I like to communicate that way. It's easier for me if I'm working,
Mhm.
etc. Um, but of course, we've always got email and we video back and forth through a platform. We
Mhm.
can video our clients' messages, and
Mhm.
then of course, can always do a live feed if
Mhm.
we need a property
Mhm.
or speak to someone via chat. We can do that too.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. And text helps because it keeps it like written down. So if you need to go back and like remember what they said, you're like, well, I'll read it in there somewhere.
Life gets busy, doesn't it?
Yes. Okay. Do you feel like you've had any issues in the past with communication and have you learned from those?
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, no, that never happens. No, that happens. And sometimes we learn things can be regional. So let's say someone is deployed.
Mm.
We learn from each other as agents in our office too. We share every morning at 8:30. We share our best practices. And if something like that were to come up and we have a communication hiccup, we can all learn from that
Sure.
and how we're communicating with people that are deployed to Iraq versus people that are stationed in Korea
Right. Right.
versus, in somebody up in Alaska with the time difference,
Hmm.
so have a best practices and we have hiccuped. And sometimes we've had to apologize. I'm not too big to apologize. We make mistakes, but we're all very motivated by just shared core values to
Hmm.
do the absolute best that we can and to get better. We're
Yeah.
constantly evolving. And I think probably any agent would tell you the same thing.
Right.
Constantly learn, constantly evolving. But honestly, for me, that fits my personality pretty well. So I like something new all the time. So
Good. Yeah, I feel like the 20 years you've been in real estate has probably helped you to learn over time, like really how the industry was and how it's changing and what works, what doesn't work. And people
yes.
who are newer, they might think that they know the best way, but they just know a way. And it's like, oh, I've tried all these ways.
Right. Yeah. I've had a few hiccups and other have too. And we always do a little after action review,
Yeah,
how we might have lost a lead. What could we have done better? And we'll ask the client, what could I have done better?
sure.
And sometimes that, people aren't always comfortable with that, but that's our policy is we always follow up. Even if it's someone that unfortunately we didn't get the opportunity to work with, we're
Sure.
going to follow. What could I have done better? How could I have earned your business?
Yep.
And sometimes they, regret not,
Mhm.
not to us and we might get them whenever they choose to sell their property, whenever they leave or something to that effect. But it's important to me and everybody on our team that we know what do we need to work on, what do we need to improve. We
Right.
have not perfected this. We have
Yep.
to constantly be evolving into a good agent,
Right.
and it's just fun to learn and grow.
Yeah. Good. So from the sounds of it, it sounds like you are a full-time agent. Would you say that's true?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am, and that's a requirement at our office as well.
Okay.
We do everyone there, everyone answering the phone, everyone there is full time.
hmm Do you
Plus,
think,
as you know,
yeah, and more. Do you think
and more.
that being full-time would take away from your ability to meet clients' needs, or do you think that it works with that ability?
I I'm of the opinion you need to be a full time agent, but I don't want to step on anyone's toes. But for me, it is more than a full time job,
hmm
and I you have to be available when someone needs to look at a home.
Yeah.
You have to be available to shoot a video. They might be in a different time zone. For me, I don't know how I could do it as a part-time agent, but I'm not somebody else may have figured that out, Allie.
hmm
But for me, we're all full-time and it's a requirement at our office.
Yeah. Um, what kind of advice would you give a buyer client to help them get their offer accepted or keep their expectations reasonable?
To get their offer accepted, we do have a, oh, a procedure. And so I'm going to want them to position themselves as best as possible before they ever arrive.
hmm
So I'm encourage them. Number one, they need the right agent. They
Sure.
need somebody on the hustle bus that's going to know the inventory inside and out, be able to move very quickly. It's slow, it's calmed down a little bit in our market, but you still need somebody that's like really on their
Mhm.
game. They got to know the market. Um, and so sometimes whenever you register on a platform, you can get assigned to a newer agent, not a
Mhm.
platform, but an industry platform. So you really need to do your due diligence and do your research and make sure that you're working with um, someone that can position you and be ready to go to get the house you fall in love with. First
Sure.
thing I would say is pre-qualification.
Yeah.
Get pre-qualified with your lender. Ask us, we'll tell you. I'm not going to tell you one lender because I don't believe in that. You
hmm
go figure out who you're comfortable with and you get pre-qualified, figure out what position you're in, figure out what you want that monthly payment to be.
hmm
AH if you're military, what you make, what that you want that payment to be. Only the lender can give you those exacts, not me. So I'm going to lean on the lender and I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to introduce you to the best in our area
Right.
from and experience. So definitely get pre-qualified so that you know your financial situation. And then when we start really doing the deep dive on which home is the best fit for you, If you're not here, I'm out taking video. We're discussing each property. We're going to be looking at an overall map. Where is it in conjunction to the main gate? How long is it going to take you to get to work? There's just so many variables. I know you know that. So I'm I'm preaching to the choir here, but I would say mainly the prequal is where we really need to start. And I
Yep.
want you to work with a lender that you love and that you're comfortable with. I don't have an agenda there. You get whatever lender you're comfortable with. If you don't know, ask me. I'll give
Mhm.
you 4 or 5, and then we'll go from there. You basically interview them. That's what I tell my clients. Interview them, pick them apart. And then if you find two, tell them, I can get this rate from one. What can I get from you?
Sure.
So I'm going to do my best to put you in the power seat.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Um, how do you anticipate the needs of clients before they move into town?
I would say just being familiar with the area and realizing that not everyone's been here.
Hmm.
And so, like I said earlier, we've got what? We've got just a handful of neighborhoods.
Hmm.
Everything else kind of out in the county.
Yeah.
And so that's how I would anticipate needs. The other thing is knowing my industry, knowing the title company, where we're going to close. What are your options for closing? What are your options for third party inspectors? What are your options for lenders?
Mm.
All these things are going on in my mind whenever, I'm just meeting you and saying, hey, where are you from? What's your favorite NFL team? What unit are you guys going to? Are you looking for a job when you get here? I ask all those questions, but in my head, I'm thinking about closing.
Sure.
Where could we close? What areas might be a fantastic fit for you? Are you going to homeschool, or do you want, or are you interested in, the local school system? There's
Mhm.
just so many variables, and all those things are going on in my head.
Yep. And you probably think through it better than maybe somebody moving into that area because, maybe they have like a, 4-year-old and it's like, oh, I wasn't even, yeah, you're right. I have to think about school now, but I wasn't because,
Don't
they're
know what you know.
exactly.
And being familiar, if you like competitive swimmers, you're probably going to be living further away outside of our community. We've had a competitive swimmer client come in, a commander on post,
Mm.
and they ended up living an hour and a half away. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but
Right.
if I knew as soon as the conversation started, like, there, competitive swimming is going to be a drive for you. Do you want to drive, the kids to swimming, or do you want to live in that community and have a short commute to swimming?
Yeah.
So those are all questions that come up. Are you going to be, are you looking for a nursing job? Are you a nurse?
Hmm.
How I know about how long employment for nurses take on the installation versus outlying communities. Just all discussions that we have,
Yeah.
looking at, what you're trying to achieve while you're here, and setting the expectation that we don't have target, which sounds might not seem important, but that's important.
Yeah.
People want those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would. I mean, when I was asking my husband about the neighborhood we live in now, there's so many other questions now that I've lived here. I feel like I should have asked because I was still at Fort Bragg while he was up here choosing our
yes.
house. And I asked some questions like, how long does it take to get to work? Like, is the neighborhood look fairly nice type of thing? And then now that I've lived here, I'm like, I should have asked where the nearest grocery store was. I didn't realize it was 25 minutes away.
And what's at the grocery store? Your idea of a grocery store and a grocery store here might be
Mm.
two different things. We do have a huge Walmart, but
Yeah.
that we can be limited on some different types of organic produce and that kind of thing. What's
Mhm.
on post, what's at Walmart, that kind of thing. It's all important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's
It's
a
very
big,
helpful.
it's quality of life.
Yes. Do you have a plan for clients moving into town if you are in a seller's market and there are not a lot of houses on the market?
Well, that's our withheld status.
Hmm.
So, and I meet every morning because I want to know from the other agents if they've got something that, maybe I wasn't tracking, or they just spoke to someone on the telephone,
Yeah.
the day before. So that is my plan, is withheld inventory, have inventory that might not be on the MLS yet.
Hmm.
Will be coming, and we can tell them, hey, even from other agents and outside offices, we have good rapport with the other offices in town, and that's a huge advantage is to know maybe even what they might have coming, just to
Sure.
serve our to the best of our ability.
Yeah. Yeah. I would
But I
agree.
would say that withheld has been a game changer
Mm-hmm.
because I can't, if you're not my client, I can't talk to you about it. So
Yeah.
you need somebody with a heavy listing inventory and heavy, withheld incoming status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've got that, or you're going to be limited to what you see on Zillow or Realtor.com, and sometimes that's too late.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, how would you help a client navigate a potential bidding war?
Well, we do have a process for that.
Mhm.
Um, Again, you need the right agent, and you need to know who's on the other side of that transaction too.
Yeah.
So there's another experience tidbit. What's the other agent? We can anticipate, okay, this is how I think this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And um, then we just kind of go from there. Each situation is so different,
Yeah.
but we do discuss it every day, and we discuss different scenarios that maybe other agents on the team may have encountered
Mm-hmm.
that could be a hang up for my agent. Hey, this just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I just the appraiser and this just happened. Oh boy. Okay. So then I can go back to my buyer and say, we've drawn the same appraiser and this is what just happened. So I think it's back to experience, Allie.
Yeah.
And if someone knows the market and they have a lot of experience for selling a lot of real estate in our area, they can get you in there fast
Yeah.
and they can make your offer count. We used to do love letters, which we're not no longer doing. But in the beginning, we were using love letters and they were working. So that's something that we stepped away inside of our MLS, which is I don't know that it's statewide, but I know it is within inside our MLS,
Mm-hmm.
possibly. But anyway, we've stepped away from that, but
Mm-hmm.
we're going constantly looking for tips and tricks
Yeah.
to
I've
get the
actually
home.
never heard of love letters. What is that?
Oh, well, it just says, hi, my name's Johna. I have two children, and they're both in preschool, and I love this place. Here's a picture of my family. We've even done video before. Um, this is my family, and we're bringing in a full price offer. My
Mm-hmm.
family would build memories here,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. Just like pulls at the heartstrings a little bit to make it
Well, yeah,
more
familiar.
meaningful.
Yeah, just introducing yourself to the seller other than just a name on a contract. I don't know that it's really encouraged anymore, but when things really escalated after COVID, um, that's whenever we saw a need to either in video form or whatever. I don't really influence my clients, or didn't. We don't do it anymore, but I didn't really influence them there. They just shot whatever video or sent whatever note they were comfortable with.
Mm, okay. Yeah, because there wasn't very much inventory at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. We could have 7 offers on the same property in less than
Mhm.
20 hours.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. What is your availability to get out and do showings or virtual tours for people?
well, we work every day.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say, I'm going to say on the weekends by appointment,
Hmm.
because they tend to stack up on the weekends. We don't have set hours at the office on the weekends, but there's always someone working over the weekends and at night. Typical real estate stuff. I'm sure we're not special in that regard.
All right. How many properties would you suggest that a client takes a look at before they make an offer?
Ooh, how many? I feel like the magic number is 5.
Okay.
And I feel like if you have an agent that knows the market extremely well,
Hmm.
then I just don't see that it's going to really take more than that. Now, that does not mean that's not discounting driving the neighborhoods.
Sure.
That's different than actually making an appointment and seeing a property.
Hmm.
So I feel like the magic number is kind of 5, at least for me and
Yeah.
my client. It just doesn't take more than that. Now I might get a huge map and old school, circle, drive over here, drive over there. Here's
Yeah.
where the schools are. Here are the fire departments, and if they're a nurse, then here's the hospital, etc. And then drive around. Like, I think that's really important in
Mhm.
our area. That might not be true for every agent, but I would say at Fort Leonardwood, get in your car and
Mhm.
drive around
Yeah.
because it's lightning. I mean, you can see,
Mhm.
what the neighborhoods are like and which one you think might be a good feel. And then I think and then I'll probably bring things to the table too that are like, Allie, I know you weren't looking at this, but I really feel strongly that we should just go in this. And
Mhm.
that happens sometimes. I'll tell people, that like, please take a look at this. I really feel like it's a good fit. Because
Yeah.
when you're new, you don't really know the area that well.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I have a pretty good uh, idea what people are kind of, what will be a good fit for them.
Sure. Would you say at least five? Like if somebody was only wanting to look at like one or two, would you say maybe look at a few more just to make sure? Or if like one or if they find the best one at one, would you tell them like that's okay to stop?
Well, a lot of times we do find the best one at one
Okay.
because, usually we've already, worked together online and looking at the MLS and pulling up all the photos. And I feel like one or three. Now, sometimes you can't get into your number one pick
Sure.
first. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to look at number five or six,
Sure.
for as your first one, but so that's
Yeah.
not always the case. But and then sometimes people fall in love with something that I just know in my heart that they're not going to love, but I'm showing it to them. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely going to show it to them.
Yep. Yeah. Um, what are the question or what are your suggestions for clients who need to make an offer on a house that sight unseen? Like they won't be coming to the area.
Right. Okay. So this might not be popular, but I never recommend that they write on anything sight unseen. It
Yeah.
is never my first choice.
Mhm.
However, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. I just think it's part of the military lifestyle and not being able to. I mean, if you're in Hawaii, how many times can you fly to Missouri to look at houses? It's that whole logistic nightmare.
Yeah.
And so we absolutely do it. It is not my first choice only because, I'm most comfortable when someone's in it and smelling it and seeing it and
Yes.
moving everything around, and seeing the whole neighborhood. And
Yeah.
of course, I'm going to do my best to capture those things for them.
Hmm.
Um, they're not here, but it is not my first choice, but we do it every day. So
Hmm.
I don't know if everyone's going to love that answer, but it is the truth. I
Yeah.
really love for them to get, a full seller's disclosure on everything, which we don't always get,
Hmm.
and want them to see everything and for themselves and to be there when we do the third party inspection and all those things just don't, line up with the logistics of a military move all the time.
Right.
Even those that aren't military, it can be expensive to fly in from Europe or Hawaii or Alaska.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I would prefer to look through a house physically, but also as like a prior service member and somebody who had to move, I never really blamed my agent because I realized like it was just I had to learn my lesson and go, I should have just asked more questions and I should have spent more time, learning the area but yeah, I agree. It's better to just
Well,
walk the house.
when we have someone that's doing a sight unseen, we put the sight unseen hat on. I really encourage them to get a buyer's agency
Hmm.
and just allow me to tell you, anything and everything, and to be a buyer's agent and to work as a buyer's agent because you need that information. But I'm going to put that hat on, even if you're just not there for closing. Even if you've come prior to and you're just not there for closing, I'm still going to put that out of town, you know, um, hat on because uh, there are just things that being experienced in the industry, I know you're going to be at a slight disadvantage by not physically being there.
Yeah. Anything to help the transition just be easier on the client.
Well, the last thing that I want is to disappoint somebody.
Hmm.
The thing I want, and I take it personally that I'm going to do the very best job that I can, within the legal confines of how we're working together. But I want to do a good job. I want those 5-star reviews. I want you to refer your friends and to feel like, man, that was a great transaction. Thank you very much. That's my goal.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't want to let people down or disappoint them over something that was just one of those, they physically weren't there
Hmm.
and you just didn't see it. So if they're not there, I'm going to video, I'm going to hit it hard with a third party inspection. I'm going to insist on, disclosures, from the sellers, or I can't necessarily insist, but I really
Sure.
want them
Yeah.
if you're not going to be there.
Hmm.
We need to know everything that we possibly can.
Yeah. I remember when I was getting into real estate, I had this idea of like, well, I wonder if I could create such an experience for somebody that it almost feels like the house was a bonus. That the
Oh,
experience was so fun. And I kind of thought of myself as like a a wedding planner, and where it was like you get to just be the bride, but like I am behind the scenes like doing the crazy stuff, and you get to just buy the house. And it, but I wanted to create such an experience where it was like, and obviously I haven't done any real estate, but that was kind of my thought going into it. It was like, I wonder if I could create such an experience where it was like, it's almost like going to like a Michelin star restaurant where you're like, oh, it like the experience was so good, and it feels like the meal was just like an extra thing where it was like I just got this to be in the environment, and it was just like awesome. And then I ate this really great meal.
yeah. No, that's a great mindset. I love it.
All right. A couple more questions.
Okay.
I think we have two more. All right. What do you think sets you apart from other realtors?
Um, I believe experience and our core values.
Hmm.
Led with core values because in my heart of hearts, I believe it. I know it and I believe it. We are all committed to the same core values, one of which is sense of urgency.
Hmm.
And um, and I think it just makes for the right type of agents
Hmm.
in the right. And we don't have a big office, and we never will. You're not going to find 35 people in my office. I've got 4. Actually, technically, we have 5 right now, and it'll never be a big team. And that's because um, I love people on the hustle bus and committed to the same core values. It's powerful and it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I call it crack. I probably shouldn't say that on here, but we call it. I mean, we get together and we talk and we share experiences and we lean on each other and we say, how did you do that? Did this happen to you? Because this just happened to me. And
Mm.
we have a people that we can, call and fall back on. I don't pretend to know it all. I've got my name on the door. I got it, but I don't know everything.
Sure.
It's real estate's constantly changing and I love that, but you can't
Hmm.
possibly do everything. You just can't possibly do it.
Yeah.
So for me, I love working with the team, and you'll find that in the receptionist, in the transaction coordinator, in the office manager. um, Everybody in the office has the same core values, same sense of urgency,
Yeah.
and same desire to give you that Michelin experience.
Yeah.
We really like it. We really
Yeah.
like it.
I think showing a value for sense of urgency is just another way of like it just shows people respect for their time, because I think sometimes people when they don't show that sense of urgency, it's disrespectful to somebody's time and all the effort they're putting in towards this. So I think that's
Yeah,
a really great core value.
it's kind of my favorite one. It's a
Yeah,
little bit of my. If you don't have it, you probably don't last very long at our office.
sure. All right. And then lastly, maybe not most importantly, if you could be a superhero, who would you be and why?
Well, I cheated, and Allie and I had to talk about it before the call because I didn't have a. I don't know my superheroes that well, but we decided on the Flash because I'd like to be in Missouri and then instantly poof appear for my in another state with my grandson. So I guess I'm the Flash, and that's fine. I'd like, and then I need to get home real quick
Yep.
for
In the
work.
blink of an eye.
Too much time off. That's right. So I'm the Flash. Would help me in
Awesome.
real too, Allie. Actually, the Flash should be helpful.
Yes, it would. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to speak with us today. And I hope that whoever is watching, that these interviews are really helpful and that you're able to get to know your agent before you meet them, and that this creates some sort of a comfort that, you don't get to meet your agent before you get in touch with them, but this way you get to you get to know Johna and her personality, her team, her work ethic, and you see that I have chosen a great agent to send you to, and I've chosen it for a good reason. So, anyways, yeah.
But I want to say thank you to you too, Allie, because myself and everyone at our office, we appreciate the opportunity. We know you've got choices, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great day, Johna.
Thank you. You too. Bye, everybody.
See ya. Bye.